All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the March 4th, 2026 Bruce Township Planning Commission meeting. Our start time is 6:01 p.m. Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Eagles.
Here.
Excused.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. Before we start the business part of our meeting, I would ask that you rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, this is a public business meeting of the Planning Commission, but we do welcome public comments at various points throughout our agenda. We request that you sign in on the sheet along the wall there to my right, if you have not already done so. Planning Commission is made up of 7 Bruce Township residents appointed by the board. In addition, we have a Township employee, Dana Buchanan, who is the Township's planning coordinator. And we also are assisted by Joe Tangari, a professional planner with Giffords Webster. If you do come to address the Planning Commission during any of the public comment areas or times throughout the agenda, we would ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. When you move to the podium, please state your name and address for the record. If you are addressing on behalf of a neighborhood, we can allot more time. But we do ask when you come to the podium, please address the commissioners and not anybody in the audience. And we appreciate your participation in this meeting this evening. With that, we're going to move on to the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from the January 7th PC meeting. Commissioners, you have an updated copy in front of you with some amendments already made. Are there any other amendments? Or is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Barnett, seconded by Commissioner Cant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. They're approved. Next up is the approval of the agenda. So we do have a couple new items. Yeah. Oh, yeah, good call out, Rick. So we do have a new Planning Commission member with us this evening, Andrew Hale. Welcome to the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Welcome to your involvement, and we do appreciate Daryl Blaylock, who stepped down, all of his contributions as well. All right, approval of the agenda.
Motion. Amendment state.
Okay.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Hale, second by Commissioner Barnett. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. Agenda is approved. That takes us to item 6, which is our public comments. So we do have a public hearing for an SLU on 33 Mile Road. So if you're here to speak on that, you can hold for a minute. But if you would like to address the Planning Commission for any general topics, feel free to do so at this time.
Is this on 32 or 33?
33.
33? Oh, well, that's my property.
Okay, you can hold on, just hold tight for a minute. Okay. Seeing nobody coming for the public comments, we'll move on to the public hearing. Mr. Roshan, is that right? Okay, 4100 33 Mile Road, special land use request. Could you maybe come to the podium and just give us a quick overview of what you're looking to?
See it from the street. To the east is wetland, and I brought a copy of the DEQ wetland map. And to the west, which is where the garage door would face, is that new subdivision, Highland Hills, but that's also heavily wooded. So I have no other place to place the garage. I did make a slight change to the package after working with my builder, and I have brought 12 copies. We're going to put a wainscoting brick on the around the garage. I'll hand those out, but the first one is the west side and the south side. The second one, on the back of the first one is the new floor plan because I added windows on both sides, both ends. The third sheet is the east side and the south side that faces 33. And because the Menard package doesn't really have the correct color, I printed this off because this is the brick that will, wainscoting that will match the house. So the house is brick on the lower level, vinyl on the upper level.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I do have two.
You?
Here's the other file.
Oh, wait.
I made 12.
Okay, thank you for the overview. We're going to turn it over to Joe. He's going to run us through his report, and
Okay.
then we may have some questions for you after that.
Sure. So yeah, 4100, 33 Mile, on the south side of 3 Mile, all zoned R1 in that area. He is proposing a detached accessory building that's in the front yard. It's, about a quarter-mile west of Fisher, I would say, roughly. House and a shed on the site. It's mostly woods otherwise. You can see the topography. I put it in on page 2 of the letter that I included, so you can see the rise from the street up the house. It rises about 20 feet from the street to the house and then flattens out behind the house. Looking at setbacks, it has to be 12 feet from another building. House is definitely more than 12 feet principal building. In the RS district, accessory buildings have to be set back a minimum of 10 feet from side and rear lot lines. It's well over 10 feet. It says 120 feet on the plan, but I measured it and it was a little different. I think it's more like, but nevertheless, it's definitely more than 10. And I did provide some approximate setbacks to the location of the building from the other property lines as well, all of which were 74, 160, 245 from the front lot line, which is probably the most important one here. This is in the front yard. Proposed garage is 30 by 28, 840 square feet. That's well within the 1,700 square feet that we get on a lot between 90,000 square feet, 5 acres. The existing shed that's there is proposed to be removed. You are allowed to have a couple of accessory buildings on a site this size. This will be the only one once the shed's removed. Accessory buildings are supposed to be generally located in the rear yard. This one's in a front yard, which requires special land use approval to be located there. So that means that the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to the Township Board, and the Township Board make the final decision. The applicant is, as he noted in his presentation, citing the location of the driveway and other site elements in the well and septic fields as reasons that the garage needs to be located here. Looking at the building height, I didn't see a total height to the midpoint between the peak and the eave, which is where we measure height to. It does have an 8-foot sidewall height, and when you do the math with width of the building and go to the peak from based on the slope, it does appear that it's within that 14-foot limit. We have our standards for special land use approval for accessory buildings. Item 9 in the letter is 4 standards. We look at proportionality between the size of the lot, street frontage, and the size of the accessory structure. The accessory structure being in harmony with the principal structure, the environment, and topography, and surrounding properties. Materials and colors of the proposed accessory building match or complementing the principal building. And an accessory building permitted in a side yard can't exceed the ground floor area of the building. This, of course, is not in a side yard, so that one doesn't apply. We did receive some photos of the site and renderings of the proposed garage showing that color scheme in the vinyl siding matched the house. I noted that the house has masonry on the ground floor. His revised plan that he just showed us matches that with the wainscoting now. It's the same color brick that he's showing on this last page here that they have on the ground floor of the house. And then this area in the garage, where the garage is supposed to be placed, is very heavily screened by woods in every direction other than the house, where the house is the actual thing that's screening it. But between this and the street in particular, there's a lot of basically 100 feet between this and the location of the building. So again, requires special land use approval because it's located in our front yard. Special land use, so you're making a recommendation to the Township Board. And if you have any questions or comments you want to hash through with me, that's what I'm here for.
All right, thank you, Joe. Commissioners, any questions for Joe?
So
I
is
did
the,
call Menards, and it peak is 12 and a half.
Okay, that's what I thought.
The actual lot size is roughly 2.9.
Yeah, 2.9.
Okay.
Yeah. Would love it if Menards and Home Depot and all these other companies start putting the height in their spec sheets, because this never seems to be there.
Yeah.
Always makes more legwork for the people who are.
Okay. Other questions for Joe and or the applicant?
I'm trying to get the question I had.
Okay.
It pertains to the checklist, where it says that, basically dimensions of the septic field are required. We didn't get those, so, it just shows, it's an arrow pointing to approximate area where the septic field's at. And also from the drawing that's submitted, looks like, because of the topography of the property, putting the building in the rear yard is a possibility, but probably the most impact, potential hardship standpoint would be you've got LPG gas out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, if you were to, let's say if that driveway, in theory, were extended straight back to the rear yard, you'd have to move the LPG tank, and then since you would be driving over, if the tank was outside of the asphalt driveway, be driving over the line, it'd have to be buried a minimum of 18 inches deep. So, and also I did a drive-by the site, and there's a new house in the subdivision to your west.
Yes, that's a model home. They have 300 construction, other one finished.
So, I'm not sure if I'm speaking out of turn at this point. It's supposed to be a conversation with Joe, but the enhancement, getting the wainscot definitely is a more desirable appearance than just going with 100% vinyl. And then going past the property, if the building were moved back, it would be more visible by the house immediately to your west, that new construction.
Correct.
So, I mean, right now, they would have more of a view out their backyard of woods. And it looks like you're gonna build a nice building, but, you know, that's a factor. I try to look at things if I live there, and personally, I think I'd rather look at the woods, than look at any building. So, but that's my comment.
Okay.
How big is your existing that you have?
Pardon?
How big is your existing that you have?
It's about 8 by 15.
Oh, so it's just a,
Yeah, and it was built, I built it 35 years ago. I've been there 38. And it's falling apart. I have to plant a lot, zero turn radius and other mowers in there. Snow blower, I have to cover them tarp. And so this all started, I was looking at potentially replacing the set. But then I got thinking about, you know, I want to get a bass boat now that I'm retired. And why not go for a garage? A detached garage, because I have a 2-car garage attached to the house, which I can only fit 1 car in it. Oh,
Okay. Other questions, comments? Not anybody care to make a motion on this SLU?
I'll give it a try. It just doesn't seem too complicated.
You open public hearing.
Oh, that's right. Thank
I
you, Joe.
think it's a formality here, but.
Yeah, I forgot, we got to open the public hearing, so I would make a motion to open the public hearing at 6:19 PM. Seconded by Commissioner Hale. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing is now open. Anybody here would like to speak on behalf of this project, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and address your comments to the commissioners. Seeing none, make a motion to close the public hearing at 6:19 PM. Seconded by Commissioner Hale. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. Back to the commissioners. And I think we had a motion getting ready.
We already informally discussion. You don't forget past that, or?
No, nothing to open up. It's just,
Okay.
if there was any other comments, we could take them, but otherwise we could do a motion.
Okay.
I don't have anything else to add. I think you covered it, Rick, in terms of some of my thoughts.
Okay, with that, I'll make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval to the board for a special land use at 410033 Mile, parcel ID 1401321000031. And this is for approval of accessory garage located in the front yard. Due to the hardship of the way the land is currently developed with septic in the backyard, and then also due to topography, which drops off further beyond that, with the condition that the building height not exceed 14 feet. And that's all.
Would we want to add in there that moving the building to rear yard would require significant underground gas line connect from the tank to the house, location?
Did we cover as one of the justifications that the materials match the existing structure?
I did not have that.
Okay.
Should we also add that another reason is because it's heavily screened with wood? Like,
Yeah, I would suggest we add that as well.
Black visible.
You set on that, Dana? Okay. Did you call the roll? Any other discussion? And we need a second.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner D. Vincent, seconded by Commissioner Cant. Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
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 Stevens,
Yes. Motion carries. So this will go to the board in 2 weeks. They have the final say on SLU approvals.
Okay, and
So-
then I'll get something to that, take to the building department?
Dana, assuming it passes, I assume that's something you can help coordinate.
Okay, all right.
All right, thank you.
Just one thing I wanted to add, and clearly it's outside the scope of this planning commission, but as a neighbor, just want to share with you that in looking at your specifications, it looks like you have a gable vent or gable vents on your building,
On the house?
on the accessory building.
Oh, yeah, it's a gable.
Okay, but I mean gable vents.
Oh, there's one on the back, and I don't know why it didn't print on the front. There's gonna be one on the back and one on the front, which is east side and the front west side, and then, the two windows.
The reason I'm bringing it up, I mean, what I'm going at with this, is there a ridge vent planned on the building?
Oh, you mean on the roof?
Yes.
No.
Okay, because you may want to consider that. When I built my accessory building, I put ridge vents front and back, and I've got full-length ridge vent. I had to do it all over again. I'd block off those gable vents, because what you want constant flow of air coming through the soffit, drying the bottom side of the roof board. You're gonna have OSB?
No,
Real
well,
quick.
OSB, but it's gonna be a metal roof.
Okay, but it'll be metal over OSB?
Yes.
Okay, especially important if you ever intend to insulate, so you got to have a lot of vent in that continual upward flow from the soffits to the ridge. It's the only way to go. You won't have any problem with it. So just want to share that with you, just friend to friend, neighbor to neighbor.
Okay.
Right. That takes us to item 8 on our agenda, which is the review for Creekside Hills Site Condo Plan Review.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, Michael Kleeman. I live at 13400 30 Mile Road. That's in Washington, too far up the road. Owner of the property there on 33 Mile Road, Creekside. A little background on this project. Started looking at the property about 5 years ago, as it was brought to me through a realtor for the Rosses that own the Stony Creek Orchard on the south side, on 32 there. This is the back half of that. And we entered into an agreement. At that point, we came in and kind of had a pre-meeting with planning here at the Township Hall, just to kind of get the flavor of us developing that site, which was positive at the time. So we moved forward with the purchase agreement, and obviously we had due diligence period in there, which we did some pretty extensive engineering work, borings, some test holes, topography, along with a pretty extensive wetland survey. So when we started looking at the piece, it was over 90 acres. It was actually two separate pieces, but all encompassed over 90 acres. We ran into a big portion of it being wetland. So at that point, we kind of walked from the project, if you will. probably 2 years after Ross's came back to us, said, look, maybe that, that second piece that's a little bit smaller that encompasses most of the wetlands, maybe we can chop that up. We'll take a piece with the majority of the wetlands on it, and we'll give you the smaller piece, and you can marry it to what we call the main piece. So right now, we ended up with about 80 acres, maybe 82 acres, I believe, and 65 of them which are usable or buildable. So we proceeded forward with we had to cross the wetland coming off the 33 mile to make an entrance into the property, because once we split off from the Rosses, there was no entrance to the property. So we did that through Eagle, which took us probably over a year to do, between the county giving us a permit to get off of 33 and then Eagle for us to cross that wetland to get onto the main piece. I don't know if you know the configuration of the piece, but relatively narrow till it opens up. So we did that. We got that in place. Then I went forward with our engineering to finish up to kind of where we are here today with the proposed subdivision. But all of the engineering that I've instructed my engineering firm to do strictly adheres to the ordinance. We're not looking for a variance. We're not looking for a special land use. We're not looking for anything other than what's written within your ordinance, which is the same thing that we did to get our permit from Eagle, and the same thing that we did when we submitted to the township, or I'm sorry, to the road commission for our roadway. So I'm here tonight. Lori and Tim are also here tonight to answer technical questions, if you like.
Okay. Thank you for the overview of the project. We'll turn it over to Joe to give us his review, and then we may have some questions for you guys at some point.
Stay here?
You can sit down.
Okay.
Right, so we're on the south side of 33 Mile again, this time about halfway between Fisher and DeQuinder. Again, all zoned R1 all around it, including the parcel itself. This is a preliminary condo, so the condo review goes in a few different stages. We, at the Planning Commission, have approval authority over preliminary condo. Once they get that, they go into engineering review, get the kinks worked out, if there are any, and then they come back to the Planning Commission, which then makes a recommendation on final approval to the board, and the board has the final condo authority. So that's the process we're working with here. This is a 24-lot subdivision on 82 acres. Each lot's going to have its own well and septic. There's no service here. It's proposed as a site condominium, so the lots range in size from 2.066 acres to 2.745 acres. The minimum lot size in the district is 2.066 acres, so all of those lots are meeting the minimum. All of the lots front on a couple of proposed roads called Mackey Lane and Lola Drive. Site has extensive wetlands in the northwest corner. Those have been left outside the boundaries of the residential lots and established as general common elements. There is a wetland area in the northern section of the property, which I believe he alluded to needing to get across before, that's what those Eagle permits were for. So I just noted that they labeled it on the plan as having a previously approved and completed wetland crossing area with a culvert. The site was an apple orchard for the most part, otherwise undeveloped. There is a little garage near the northern end of the site. I noted that they didn't mention it in their plans. We did receive a response letter and revised plans yesterday, and they did note that the plan is to keep the garage on the site until the roads are developed, at which point they again, all R1 around it, all single-family homes except the apple orchard to the south. You have a pretty extensive wetland area to the west, which is split off from this. That is connected by a really narrow thread over to DeQuinder Road. So looking at the standards of the R1 district, minimum lot width of 150 feet in that district, we didn't have lot widths on the original set of plans. The revised plans that they submitted yesterday did have all the lot widths, and they all did meet the 50 foot minimum. I also was able to get the depth to width ratio on everything from those revised plans. They all were compliant. I don't know if you received any of those revised plans or the response letter. So I may be talking about something you don't have in front of you, but otherwise, let's see, excluding the wetlands from the lots, as I noted, we have some condo design standards. So we require pedestrian pathways. There aren't any sidewalks shown on the plan. They are planning to pay into the fund, which most of the things that go in over in this part of the township do. There are a couple of kind of like eyebrow cul-de-sacs that are scattered through the development. I highlighted them not because they're actually a problem with the ordinance. I just was wondering why they were designed that way. The response letter, and I can let them address this as well, but the response letter noted that it was a response to the topography of the site, and it made it easier to go with drainage in those particular locations. But I'll let engineer explain that if you have additional questions. We do have some maximum length of cul-de-sac street standards in our ordinances. Planning Commission actually has the ability to waive those standards. 600 feet in the subdivision standards, and there's not actually a maximum length listed for public roads. Zoning ordinance, private roads is limited to a mile. It's about 1,900 or 1,100 feet from 33 Mile Road to the intersection of Mackey and Lola. And then, of course, they split off, so you have two different cul-de-sacs. The length of one of them is 1,780 and the other is 1,747 feet. Again, you do have the power as the Planning Commission to waive the 600-foot limit from the subdivision ordinance. Obviously, they're nowhere near a mile. But you can waive the 600-foot limit in the subdivision ordinance as part of your preliminary condo approval. There is a street tree and some other landscaping requirement. Landscaping is generally addressed at final approval, not preliminary approval. They did actually note in their response letter that they were going to be addressing landscaping at final approval. That does include tree removal. So the site was formerly an apple orchard, so obviously there were a lot of trees there. For the purpose of assessing tree removal, though, trees that were placed on the site for agricultural purposes can be removed without replacement. You know, like each one of those apple trees doesn't need to be replaced. Non-agricultural trees on the site should be treated as regulated trees from a removal and replacement standpoint, though. So really, that's mostly talking about that northern part where Mackey Lane comes in to serve the subdivision. There are a couple other trees that might apply to, but that's the primary area we're talking about there. So if more than 50% of the non-agricultural trees in that work area are removed, they should be replaced in accordance with 522 of our ordinance. So we don't have any data on those at this point, but that will be required. They come in for final approval to make sure that replacements are done in accordance with the ordinance. And then as far as the site condo approval process goes, for preliminary approval, we have a checklist of information that needs to be submitted. The one I wanted to highlight was C, because when we received the original plans, some of the dimensions that are required in that item C weren't addressed on the plan. So obviously you don't have a plan in front of you that has those dimensions. I've since received it and been able to review it. I found everything to be okay, but you have obviously the ability to decide, no, we'd actually like to see that before we take action, or to be okay with the way things have proceeded. So, well, that's definitely one consideration for your discussion, is do you want to see those plans before you take action? Those revised. Do you have any questions?
Got one regarding street length. Correct me if I'm wrong, criticality of that fire department access. So there's a point where the fire chief signs off, specific what part of final site.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably going to happen before final, because during the engineering phase, they would definitely at it.
I'm a little nervous, like saying it's okay without the fire weighing in.
I don't know if I can speak to those cul-de-sacs now or wait till you're finished.
I'm fielding questions, so.
Yeah, if you want to address it.
Yeah,
to
so
the topic.
we designed Lori and her firm has designed the roads to the county standard, public road standard, if you will, right? So, or county road standard. So under the most current county road standard, every cul-de-sac that you see on the plan is required under their standard, except we just got review back like an hour before this meeting where Lola Lane meets Mackey Lane. That would be a regular T intersection, if you will. They wouldn't require a cul-de-sac there. But up until today, all of those cul-de-sacs were required from the road commission. Now, we're also considering going private road, if that would be, and I know you guys allow private roads here in the township. We don't know, we're balancing it. Should we stay to the road commission standards, the county road, or should we go private? I don't know what your flavor is on that. Maybe planner can.
You'll be building it to the public standard.
Right, but I think to the point of the cul-de-sac, so we could possibly do away with those, or the roundabouts, if you will.
I possibly, yeah. But I mean, in every other respect.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
I guess, are you talking about the end of the cul-de-sacs?
No.
Towards the end, or the center cul-de-sacs along the way?
The center
Center
ones.
ones,
Yes.
So,
Right.
When we allowed private roads, which that's our default state, require build out for Macomb County Department of Road Standards, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be built like a public road. I'd have to dig into the language to see if it's like those little cul-de-sacs would be kind of one of the only things that would be different from our standards to theirs. So I'd have to dig into the standards to see if they would still have to do those based on what the precise language is in the standard that refers to the public road standards. There may be no difference at all from a construction standpoint. But I'd have to look in more detail.
And then with where we're at right now, what's the appropriate way to engage our chief? We have to wait for the get a agreement, the concept, kind of the slowest sequential proceed to with suggestion.
Sure. Well, I mean, if that's one of the things that you're concerned about, then it would be a matter of having staff hear from the fire department and give you some formal.
Could be just something preliminary site approval that basic part.
Yeah, that would
Yeah, the condition of approval.
And one last minor memo, item number 4. It appears like the sentence, R1 district, this R1 district requires a lot size of 40 square feet, then in the table immediately first. Yeah, and also, I'm sorry.
41,000 is actually the R1A district.
Yeah, right. So the sentence should state that R1's 90,000 square feet.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's it. I got it.
Just come on up. If I can, just a quick comment on engaging the fire department, which is great, all for that. I'm actually working on a piece in Warren where there's questions from planning commission there with driveways coming in off of Mound Road. The problem is if you guys want the driveway to be a certain size or a certain dimension or a certain appearance, right? The road commission's kind of got to buy in because they're ultimately the ones that kind of hold the clicker to the roads, right? So as long as the fire department don't say, we want this, and we got to go back to the road commission, and they're like, no, this is our standard. We can't go outside of our standard. So just don't over-engineer me out of the road commission standard.
No, I wouldn't be fearful of that.
Okay.
You know, my observation, listening to the chief, is his biggest concern being able to get the fire truck.
Hey,
He's a pretty agreeable guy.
if we can eliminate those cul-de-sacs or roundabouts, I'm all in for that. And that would make his life way easier with that equipment, I'm sure. So, but I think Lori's got a comment.
And we can actually submit a set of plans to him if you would like. Okay. Okay, thank you. Absolutely, yes. Okay, thank you. And then as far as the road goes, I know your ordinance does say for a private road is 600 feet, and our road is obviously much longer than that. So would you see that as a problem if we went private, and would we have to get a variance, or how would that work? Would that just be a planning commission
It's
approval?
a planning commission waiver, not act.
Okay. Okay. And how would we go about that? And do you see that as a problem if we decide to go private?
The 600-foot standard applies to any road from the subdivision standards. And it is literally the planning commission deciding that they're going to waive as part of their motion.
Okay.
So that's something that gets discussed here. And I think you're hearing from one planning commissioner that he's more or less okay with moving forward, but one of the contingencies that he would want the fire chief to look at
Absolutely.
that limit and say, yes, I'm okay with them waiving.
Absolutely.
In regarding the road length, if that were not allowed, no other you don't have any other access on the site, right?
No.
So it would stop the development. So.
Or you'd have to come in and like have another road come off of it, right? I mean, there's probably a way to do it. It just probably wouldn't look very.
That's buy the rest of the orchard and go to.
Yeah.
Actually, that was our desire, is to buy a piece of the apple orchard and have access in off of 32 Mile, which he was not agreeable to do. Anything, I'm sorry?
And there's no access to Henry Ross either.
Those are private roads that are stopped, and that HOA said no. And then to the west is the Stony Creek Creek, and with just all wetlands and residential on the other side of it. So we're not getting through that either. Yeah. So this is our only in and out. Kind of like the subdivision, the new one just to the east of us there, the Highland Hills. Same type of thing.
For the sake of meeting the requirement, as you mentioned, Jared, cutting it up and adding additional roads is defeating the whole purpose. Inhibits ingress and egress even more.
Correct.
We're monkeying around.
Correct.
We've talked about it before, but I thought the county wasn't accepting new roads. Something changed?
Okay.
I just got the.
We've talked about it. You weren't,
Yeah.
so that's good. Not valid anymore.
Well, you know. But if they stay public, we don't have to waive any.
The 600-foot thing actually still does have, applies to any road.
Any
under
road?
the subdivision
Okay.
ordinance. So, but that standard is specifically assigned.
Question, Steve. Please help us understand the benefit county road, or public road versus private road.
In a situation like this,
I mean, my situation is 30 years from now when the road fails, private road, the county is not involved in placing the road.
Correct.
If it's a
Falls.
public road, they may give you 50%. But if it's a private road and it fails, it's on, we'll bought that road to replace that road.
And again, I think Highland Hills to the east of us, that new sub is there a private road as
Yep.
well.
So
Yeah.
if that road fails, it's all that's on
It's-
them.
Yeah, I'd say
The county
HOA.
won't plow it, take care of it. If it's a public road, they have,
You have to build it to the county standards.
yeah.
I mean, the construction wise is the same. Maintenance wise, you own it.
but if it's the county's road, maintenance wise, it's theirs.
Yeah.
It could, my road's private. Keep rumbling. Seal coating it every other year.
Joe, on the lot widths, there's 150 required. How does that apply to the cul-de-sac lots that have very small?
So
front yard,
it's
front-
measured at the setback line. So you're not measuring right lot where it is narrow. So you're going back a lot, 75 feet into the lot. So you're going down those side property lines on the line.
Okay.
And that line has. Yeah, you guys.
and the close. Not really where.
And if you curve that tangent line back.
Just a minor, Joe, you have the largest lot at 0.745, unit 50. I don't know if you measure it differently.
No, I probably one.
It doesn't amount.
Any other questions for Joe on his report? Or for the app?
The site plan approvals, they're not recommendations for, correct?
In this case, preliminary condo is final.
Questions?
I guess just for option for the commissioners, that since we did receive this right before we got here, is there anybody that feels they need more time to review it before we would take action? Or do you feel the explanation and questions have been answered based on the conversation?
I think if Joe thinks everything checks out for lot, I'm looking at it now.
take a stab at it. I'd like to submit a motion for preliminary site approval parcel ID 401-100-035. And this is contingent on, help me out with the wording here, basically preliminary approval by the fire chief, would that be correct?
So what I would say is that it's contingent on the fire approval of the waiver of the 6.
Okay.
Yeah, fire approval of the 6.
So just so I'm understanding, so the 600-foot would be only waived if the fire chief approves the waiver? Is that what we're saying?
I think that's what Rick's trying to say.
I just don't want to speak here.
It's your standard waive, but I think Rick,
That's where I'm confused.
he's trying to backstop it on terms of if the fire department has a problem.
And this is not a postponement. I mean, if the fire chief agrees, it's just the preliminary.
You have to waive it also? I mean,
That's what I was wondering, should we just address those separately? Waive the
That's probably a good
cul-de-sac,
idea, yeah.
and
I
then
think
make
so.
it contingent upon fire chief approval?
Got the wording? Agreement?
So right now, we're just looking at waiving the 600. That's one separate motion from the rest.
No, it's part of the
It's
motion.
part of the motion, yeah.
Okay.
Support?
Don't we
Is
have
there
to
anything
add
else
that they
on
need to
or-
pay into the
No,
township fund?
Oh, you were.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to pay into the township fund, needs to be said.
And they'll be providing a landscape trees, fine. I would put that in there.
Further into it?
wording is
Help
I
with
think
it.
you kind of,
Yeah. Joe, help us out.
Yeah, the planning commission is approving the waiver of 6. And then kind of next is fire.
So Joe, it has to be conditional, because if we waive it, then it's waived. Can't unwaive. So it needs to be conditional. The 600 waiver needs approval by fire. Would that make? Correct.
Yeah, I think that at this point, we're going to get through engineering.
We're just trying to dot the i's.
I think those cul-de-sac sizes are going to be important to him for apparatus turnaround.
Yeah, they gotta have the right.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Hagelstein. Is there a second?
Yes, support.
Seconded by Commissioner Hale. Dana, would you call the roll, please?
Yes.
Arnett,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Losing our audio. All right, that takes us to item 9 on the agenda, which is communications. I don't believe we have any this evening. We did get a notice from Anne Marie that we're having some audio issues on the recording.
Could you pull your mic closer? I think that's kind of all we need. Just make sure you speak clearly into your mic.
sorry.
That's okay. I did send you a text on it, but you didn't.
I don't usually. Sorry.
She's trying to be good and not look at her phone during the meeting.
Or talk too much.
You know you got the mic distance right when you're uncomfortable with it.
Where's yours there, Rick?
Hey, right here.
All right,
6
no,
inches.
no communications. That takes us to unfinished business. 10A is our master plan discussion.
So at the moment, we're working through some other things. So
Okay.
there's a couple things going on. One is that the agritourism agribusiness subcommittee is going through their research to bring a recommendation to the planning commission on a direction for that. And the other thing is that we're kind of pausing to study these high-intensity industrial uses that we'll be
Okay.
talking about on a later. We're going to have to put some sort of direction on those in our plan.
Okay, we would incorporate some wording into the master. From a just next steps perspective, we get these 2 items nailed down. Is it then to the town halls? Is that kind of the next step on the
That would
the
be
plan?
next.
Okay, any questions on current master plan status? Okay. 10B is the agritourism, agribusiness discussion.
Yes, we do have an update. Anne Marie was prepared to give it, but I will do it in her place today. I'll try to keep it short. So the current status, the subcommittee has met twice and had lengthy discussions since our January PC meeting, and also engaged with Joe to ensure that we are covering what's necessary at this point for purposes of the forthcoming master plan town hall and eventual adoption of any future land use map updates. Joe's direction is that we need only make a recommendation on whether there should be location restrictions for requests for the potential expansion of farms and agribusiness into commercial operations not protected by RFTA and the GAP. So our subcommittee recommendation, based on the modest survey input and PC discussion regarding commercial in general, as well as the township's historical value placed on agricultural and farming, we have concluded that commercial expansion on agricultural properties should not be dictated by local. We would feel hard-pressed to pick and choose, for example, why a commercial-type venture would be okay on Van Dyke but not on 32 Mile, why it'd be okay on McKay and not Fisher, so on and so forth. In our opinion, however, the best way to protect the rural character of our township and our residents, and to still help support local farmers, is to focus on the agribusiness ordinance language itself. In the ordinance, we can set limitations based on use and impact in the case of non-protected ventures that may be allowed with special land use. So next steps is, if the PC is in support of our recommendation, Joe has the direction on what little may need to be incorporated into the master plan town hall presentation. The subcommittee will continue to work on recommendations or updates to our agribusiness ordinance language, which would proceed in the same manner as other ordinance updates. And the side note, Anne Marie said she would get.
Thank you for the update. Any questions from Mandy on current progress on the agribusiness, agritourism subcommittee? So I think if I understood that, we're saying we would likely be proposing not a location-based restriction of any sort, really just within the ordinance of use and
Right.
time. And,
Deciding what would be permitted or not permitted, what would be special use.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if that's something we talk about as a PC tonight.
It certainly, and it's on your agenda, so you may not necessarily have.
Well, you guys have heard our recommendation. Any thoughts?
So if it's rewording the ordinance itself, it's basically trying not to spot that, what I'm understanding. We have numerous agriculture facing with commercial out facing. Are we trying to have the ordinance control it rather than restrict it?
Right, so prior to you coming onto the commission here, we had briefly talked about looking at limiting it to Van Dyke. But we've met a few times and have now decided that wouldn't be the best, at least for our recommendation, would be to have it based. Those favoritism in some ways. Yeah, and if we want to support the farms, it's better to control what commercial activities they can do, put some limitations on it, rather than say where you.
So I have a question, if I could. Some of you may remember this, as you're saying thing about the location, that 6440 Boardman Farm is still a scar. It was located 38 Mile Road on Boardman, in a quarter of a mile, very dirt and pothole-filled road. That was one of the primary reasons that we cited as for being against that particular agro business, was basically because of the location was so bad, the amount of traffic they predicted, and it was pretty much that location. So how do we?
I think it was a nexus of location and scale. And that is one of the features of the special land use process, is that you can say that for this particular use, this location is not appropriate. But you're doing it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Rather than trying to say, okay, this part of the township, part of the not. Because potentially, someone at a scale that wasn't not on, like, for another major.
And it's protected with growth too. Say that road gets paved someday in the future.
Sure.
Now you're not just saying, we have now changed this road is paved.
Exactly, yeah, you
So,
don't have
I
to.
mean, I agree with the SLU process for it. It'll
Yeah.
solve future issues.
Yeah, you don't have to amend your ordinance over and over and over to add another road and add another road and add another road, yeah.
Regarding that, Boardman, that clearly was commercial op, failed. They're commercial in nature. Different animal, ancillary to legitimate farming operations and giving those farmers improve their revenue.
Yeah, there are really two categories. There are ancillary operations that are protected under the Right to Farm Act. We cannot say those, they're protected, they're part of the farm. And then there are things that go beyond that, that are not covered under the Right to Farm, and that's really what we're talking about. Those items that go beyond what's covered.
Said things just surrounding revenue. Else to follow, please?
So are you saying that with regard to that, so the planning commission would still have the ability to approve, not approve anything that was not the Right to Farm Act?
Yeah, whatever we're covering and permitting as a special land.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just trying to think of businesses that grow over time. So we've been here a long time. When we moved here, Blake on Armada Center was one thing. It's 10 times that operation today. Is there a way to limit the growth of something?
Yes. One is in your approval, being careful about what you're approving, having plans that are specific, and then also the other side.
Okay. And it's not bad. I mean, it's on the road that it's on and stuff. It's not our township. I'm just thinking ahead.
Well, when things change and the site plan changes, that would require a return trip
Exactly,
to the planning
yeah.
commission.
Okay.
So
Glad, of course, brought up. Yeah, we're going to be high intensity industrial, but we really need my recommendation versus, with the onus on the application, getting applicable requirements before they're allowed to start operation versus putting it on the enforcement off, taking.
So in terms of drafting the ordinance, how do we get started?
So Anne Marie, Rick and I we'll continue to work on those details.
Okay.
This was just the first high-level step because of the bring up, and this is all we really needed.
So Joe, are you saying we should have a motion to move forward with this as our plan?
I think what you're saying is you're accepting their. Andy, wording of that recommendation.
Appropriate.
Well, it's pretty simple. Yeah. I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendations of the agribusiness, agritourism. Barnett.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Cant, seconded by Commissioner D. Vinson. Joe, do we have to say in the motion what we're accepting, or is it sufficient to just say?
He noted as worded by
Okay.
Commissioner Barnett.
Okay.
Again, she can provide wording, Dana, and put it right in.
Is this just verbal affirmation or roll?
You can do this by acclamation,
All right.
I think. If somebody says no, then you can do a roll call.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank Andy. All right, that takes us to 10C, 5G, ongoing discussion. No update. 10D is our industrial zoning district moratorium.
Right. So as you know, the board, or as you may not know, if you haven't been on the planning commission until today, the board has adopted a temporary moratorium on large-scale or high-intensity industrial uses. It has extended beyond its original 2-month period. The proximal reason for the moratorium is the sudden and rapid expansion of hyperscale data centers that are primarily intended to support the growth of the artificial intelligence industry. They, of course, have other applications as well, such as cryptocurrency and other things. But nevertheless, that was what sparked this conversation. However, recognizing that this is just one of many potential high-density uses, we are trying to take a more of a 40,000-foot view and look at kind of those uses as a class, as well as specific things about data centers that may warrant some individual standard. So, you know, the thing that we're concerned about, of course, is the externalities that those uses might pose to the uses around them. So, state and federal governments both are very clearly supporting the construction of data center infrastructure. Industry is moving very quickly to expand capacity. And, you know, while heavy industry is less central to the American economy than it once was, there also are still other heavy industrial uses that have the potential to be established in a township. So, a few things to think about here. One is zoning versus general ordinances. So as a planning commission, we're charged with zoning ordinance. So when we're developing amendments, we need to think about the use of land and the characteristics of the development of that land. So identifying potential external impacts of development tells us the kinds of protections that we might be able to develop. Can't outright prohibit otherwise lawful uses. That's something that I think if you haven't studied zoning or been part of a planning commission or something like that, a lot of people don't know that. But I think that's important information for the public to understand. Not prohibit otherwise lawful uses from being anywhere in our. We can tell them, we can say this is the most appropriate part of the town. We're going to therefore put them in this zoning district, but we can't outright. Township, of course, also has a book of general police powers ordinances that cover a wide variety of topics outside of zoning. And that includes everything from subdivisions to electrical permits to nuisances to new ordinance. There's one about fireworks. There's a whole bunch of different things covered in our general ordinances. Some of those also involve governance. So it's like disclosure, utility franchises, that's all covered in general ordinances. There of course are certain legal limitations on what the township can and can't do within those ordinances as well, but we won't really get deep into it. This discussion. So thinking about zoning, we have a couple ways to think about it. One is broadly applied standard, the other is use specific. So our zoning ordinance has Article 4, and all of the sections in Article 4 are standards that apply to specific uses. So when you're going through the lists in every district of the uses that are permitted in that district, you'll see reference to a portion of Article 4, one section of Article 4, next to some of those uses. You're supposed to refer to those standard Article 4 section when you come across one of those uses, because there are going to be some specific things that you have to do beyond all the applied standards. establishing one. So the other categories of standard are district-specific standards. So that's usually like where setbacks, heights, and then your development standards, which are things like parking, lighting, other elements of site design that are going to apply to all development as a site plan. So when we're thinking about high-intensity industrial uses, one of the things that we need to think about is whether the externalities that we're concerned about are best addressed in a use-specific standard, or should they be developed in a development, or addressed in a development. So for instance, if we're concerned about the noise that's potentially produced by a specific use, it would usually follow that we'd be concerned about the possibility of similar noise being produced by any other. So when we're thinking about putting a standard in the ordinance, if we're talking about a specific use and we're worried about noise from that use, we should think about, okay, well, if we're going to develop something so for mitigating that potentiality, it should apply as some other use that same use. Looking at our current ordinance language, the IRO Industrial Office District, the LI1 Light Industrial District are the two districts that permit industrial uses right now. IRO is intended to be the lighter of the two districts. That's focused on research, high-tech type businesses. Everything's happening within a building. There's nothing going on outside. But right now, one of the permitted uses in that district is data processing and computer centers, including incidental service and maintenance electronic processing equipment. That's permitted use in that IRO. Exactly. And of course, when that was added to the ordinance, been in there for, I don't even know how long, decades. It was a much smaller scale. Actually, talking about possibly box that routes internet. You know, just in general, like a computing center that's got a bunch of servers in it, but nothing on the scale of what's happening now. Current problems. For reference, in New Albany, Ohio, which is east of, they have two data center projects going on the east side of the one that's mostly complete, 1.5 square mile facility. And part of the reason that those two facilities are located where they are is that there is, you're kind of trying to picture it in your mind, there's a very large corridor of transmission and runs from the East Coast, really from the East Coast through Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and locating data centers there is an extremely beneficial thing for those data centers being right in structure. That doesn't come up in Michigan, so have somewhat different demand profile here. However, another thing that they typically look for is electric transmission lines of a certain size. Township have the perimeter of our current LI1 district on the north side, and then it goes across around the subdivision portion of down Washington. So that is right alongside our LI1 district. LI1, of course, permits uses that we tend to think of as more traditional industrial uses. Contract yards, light manufacturing. We have a definition for light industrial that includes a pretty long laundry list of things, warehousing, wholesaling, storage, light assembly of previously finished items. There's all kinds of things that you take as a light industrial use. We also have a definition of heavy industrial, which has a similar but shorter list. And we're really looking at processing of raw materials, manufacturing processes that are using potentially flammable or explosive materials, other hazardous conditions, and other things that involve like solid waste, sanitation. Really, it's things that have the potential for a lot of external effects. We have some pretty extensive development standards in our ordinance in Article 5. That includes performance standards, Section 5.4. That addresses a range of pollution and nuisances, including smoke, dust and ash, odor, gases, glare, radioactive materials, fire and explosive hazards, airborne particulates, open storage, noise, and hazardous substance storage. So if we're looking at any of those things and we're concerned about what might happen with a higher industrial use, with regard to any of those subjects, we might want to look at changing the standards section. So thinking about the term high intensity industrial uses, the board is considering a moratorium because we don't want to be just looking at one use in a vacuum. We want to be more broadly. We're looking at our ordinance to ensure that it adequately addresses concerns about those external impacts. So what makes industrial use high intensity? I would say we think in two terms, really, scale and like external impacts. High intensity industrial use typically, though not always, is going to occupy a large amount of land. You might have some that are actually smaller, generally speaking. They might require construction of large buildings, the provision of expansive outdoor storage areas. You might have backup power sources on site. You might have large climate control systems that need to be present on the site. And those systems can themselves produce externalities that might need to be managed to reduce uses. Fumes or just excess heat, something like that could potentially affect. Noise, of course, is another thing that could potentially off-site. So one thing to think about is developing a set of standards. Our current definition of heavy industrial, heavy industrial uses are limited at present to the southeastern portion of the township. Data centers and other uses with very high electrical demands seek locations that are proximal to those high lines. A lot of draft ordinances currently under consideration in these specific data centers are requiring some information, things like power usage effectiveness. When thinking about whether to require information like that, we do have to think in practical terms about how we as a township are going to process that information and then what we do with it. Administrative capacity to receive, understanding, verify. So I've got a little outline of some proposed amendment discussion for I think we just need to think about categories to help us conceptualize what we're working on and how it all works. So we have amendments to development. What are we concerned about broadly to any use? Do we already cover it or do we need to make changes? If we do cover it, how? One is standards for all heavy industrial uses. So are there standards we could apply to all heavy industrial uses on the standards of the LI1 district, current performance standards, that would preemptively provide some necessary protection? Should those standards scale with the use? And finally, are there any standards specific to large data processing operations that we should be considering? Aspects of those operations that warrant specific standards beyond what we're doing for other heavy industrial uses? And then what findings would we make to support the standard? There may be concerns that we have that we have limited ability to directly. That might include resource consumption in the form of electric water usage. We have limited control over. But there may be some things. So I've got this table to help us think through some of the policy direction. And I basically have 3 columns. 1 is the issue, 2 is what we've done, 3 is what is our. So issue 1 is high electricity demand, and this would especially applicable to data centers. So electricity is ETE, it's not under the direct control of the township. It can be cited as a concern, certainly, when we're thinking of reasons that might require not ultimately a zoning issue, but it's a relevant issue. It's just not something a lot of people. High water consumption, another one, and this could apply to a lot of heavy. So similar to the consumption of electricity, water zoning, uses requiring lots of water cooling could be required to use closed loop systems that use less water. That may not be practical in all circumstances. Still, some wastewater, sand, particulates. So there maybe have to be some considerations for uses like that. But if you're just using it for cooling, a closed loop system quite feasible. But therefore produces a lot. So thinking about those 2 issues together, I do think that we could address like both umbrella set of standards for high and down center issue. Well, classify them as a subset high and then we're capturing more broadly by applying them to other high intensity.
Avoids exclusionary zoning.
Exactly. It avoids the charge that you're being prejudicial for use. Addressing it. Now, that's not to say that we can't have specific standards for specific can and do in ours. But if it's something that could potentially apply outside that use, I'll kind of go through all the issues and then we can have discussion, I guess. So one is I've compared these 2 in terms of my analysis done. So one is the need for large scale on-site energy production and storage facilities. So the other is the need for large cooling systems. When it comes to data centers specifically, these large mechanical cooling systems and these on-site energy production systems, which are often backup power but need to be run and tested on a regular basis. These are I think the 2 main sources of conflict with surrounding property. Because the large mechanical cooling systems are the things that tend to produce sound that escapes from these sites, particularly low frequency sound. And then on-site energy production and or storage facilities, that at the moment tends to be natural gas method. So there can be heat island effect those energy production facilities cause. Also, you have emissions. The storage facilities, if you have, say, battery energy site, it's less of a concern now than it used to be because of the switch from lithium ion to lithium ion phosphate. But the battery systems, there's fire, and it's not so much a high likelihood of fire so much as the fact that if a fire does occur, it's the type of battery. Exactly. Right. The smoke is not good for anyone. If something. Again, the newer batteries are a lot less likely to get lithium ion versus lithium ion phosphate. Likelihood of fire is quite different. And I assume that in the future, the likelihood will continue to decline as the technologies change. But it is a possibility, and the toxicity of the energy storage is something that needs to be considered, because if that eventuality happens, it's really bad environment. And it's hard to put out. These fires can reignite a long time after they're initially extinguished, and they can also they burn extremely hot. So there's a higher degree of several different angles for local fire service. So I think those are two things that we are probably going to be spending a lot of time on, because they are some of the things that have the biggest potential, otherwise fairly inert uses. Traffic is another one. So a development impact statement is required for large development already in our ordinance. One thing I'd like to do as part of this process is, right now, development impact statement is hidden in site review. It's kind of this letter within another section. I think it would make sense to break it out as a section so that it's a section header. When you're going through the table of contents of the ordinance, you see the term development impact statement right in along with all the other development processes. I think that would improve its visibility in the ordinance, make it a little harder for people doing large developments. It's very often missed. There's been a lot of times someone's come in with a large plan or a large rezoning, and we've had to say, we're going to postpone this decision so you come back with a development impact statement. It's not really an excuse for them not being through and finding all the information that they provide, but nevertheless, I think making it more visible. But as far as traffic is concerned, development impact statement, I think, is appropriate for these high-intensity uses. That does include a traffic analysis. Construction traffic is a separate issue from traffic generated by the use once it's built. A data center works there. It's a very small number of people who work at and maintain these things. If they add another building down the road, then you have construction. But it's a window of larger traffic. Some of these other high-intensity uses, they may have more staff, may have more regular traffic generation or more regular truck generation. I think is probably a bigger concern even than work. If that is punishing on the roads and also just has the more potential to come up with work as far as. Construction traffic itself is a temporary issue. The township does not have a lot of control over truck traffic, doesn't own its roads. Truck routing plans can give the township an opportunity to recommend, or in some cases require, that disruptive traffic be sent down routes that cause the least overall disruption for locals, though. So as part of an overall development impact statement for something very high intensity, requesting a truck routing plan, I think, can make sense. Now, ultimately, the county is the one that's more likely going to be saying, all right, but something that gives the township a little bit of ability to say, all right, we see your truck routing plan. Can you consider this as an alternative? We have this concern about what. It's at least a touch for you. And then finally, thinking about noise, lighting, and emissions, these are related to some of the things further up the table. But these are addressed in our performance standards and development lighting section. We have a paragraph on noise right now, performance standards, that I think we need to probably expand. So if we have concerns about these or similar issues, I think we need to address them in the development standards so that we're addressing that concern universally. If we're concerned about low infrasound, we need to be concerned about it. We just did a bunch of updates to lighting. We'll get an soon. With that and a couple other things that we recently and then emissions are addressed in our performance standards. It's focused on particulate. There's a well, but that's also something. So before we move on from the table, I guess I'd kind of like to throw it over to you to get your thoughts, see what your concerns are and how you're start.
From the last minute, moving forward, we'll pull together draft language, discuss meeting which is done. This will include definition, purpose, plotting and specific regulations. I believe, we started the pathway through towards that. You will work with Title Barnett, decisions reviewed. So I've done a lot of research, sent you a lot of information, Joe, and Mandy sent you information. If there's no objection by what I'd like to do, work with you and Mandy to get our arms around this, rather than it be meeting and a work group. I think we could very quick work through some of this where we would be able to draw the line, defend it, where those elements specifically sit within the zoning ordinance, or whether it requires inclusion within a general ordinance, with the ramifications. Whether we can come back, we got something. Feel more comfortable presenting.
My issue is purely the draw of groundwater. Things like this, they're going to exist here. I'd rather not, and exclude things, as you said. I do not want them drawing fresh water from the ground.
Sure, yeah.
For me, they tie into GLWA. that has to happen. I'm not trying to draw wells out around.
I'm in absolute agreement with you. But one thing I did read is the saline development they're doing, I'm doing sanitary source. So I'm not sure if you look at that as a precedent, but I mean, it's being done elsewhere in the state. And again, I'm in agreement with you. I think there's other areas that stronger opportunities provide protection. Not ignore it by any means. And we got some opportunities in addition to provide protection for Bruce.
One thing I have been researching is what exactly are what can we do? Are we able to put says anybody that's going to use this water or more has to be going in our system or something along those lines? There may be something we along those lines. It's not going to be in zoning, but there may be something. Because I understand that concern very acutely. You farms to them around here, individual houses, and if their wells problem, how do you even go ahead and address that? Dig a deeper well, and then when that fails, then what do you do?
I promise you, it will receive.
Because, I mean, if water main goes in front of your house, the county can remove your well, right? So it,
Yeah.
Joe, in terms of just the ability to control or restrict them, how does this equate to the C3 district, which we have defined, but we don't allow it anywhere? We don't have any land designated for that. Like, is there a path to say we define what data centers would fit into from a zoning perspective and then just determine at some point if there's land that fits into that? Because essentially what we did was C3.
Yeah, we do have the C3 district. Not on the map. Someday, this is the main thing to consider.
You're suggesting that is a comparative example. It's a commercial district. In this, a industrial variant.
I'm saying we could have defined an industrial zoning what category, like we've just done. We could add a new one that encompasses the use and the parameters that these types of structures fall into, and then determine if there's places in the township that we would want to make that available or not.
so they could come in for a rezoning to it, but it wouldn't already
They
exist on the
could,
map.
yeah.
Yeah, which I suppose is, I guess, both a benefit and a risk. Where they might win.
Yeah.
Gotta be on solid ground. Iowa. It is, I mean, it's an approach that I would certainly run by the attorney before taking that approach.
Yeah. I was just trying to understand what the difference is because we have that same situation
Right.
in the C3.
Yeah, and I do think they're used to C3.
Okay.
Identified.
Gotcha.
Too. So I think it became a ghost zoning district rather than count as one.
Okay.
But it is something that you could do. It's just, I want to know from the
I don't have any objection to your proposal. Does anybody else?
Got quite a bit of language already sitting on, so to speak, so it wouldn't be very long before we start sharing.
Obviously, you got to go through.
Yeah.
It's a yes or a no, or if it is a yes, modified word.
Right, some of it will definitely move.
Yeah, I think, the three of us know how to work very quickly at waste. This is high priority, so to get fucked up, could even make, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 days a week available to work with you, probably by Zoom.
Whatever you need, I'll make
I
it
would
work.
think so.
Your schedule is obviously critical to mine. Would we want to identify a place for peers, what our first day and time would be to meeting of the minds?
Yeah, figure that out.
I'll let you guys do that once the meeting's over. All right?
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I can
Thank
do
you.
that.
And then in terms of the moratorium that's currently underway, I mean, we can't keep, I imagine the township can't keep extending that indefinitely, so.
Not indefinitely, but, remind me how long it.
I don't, the board has done that, extended the moratorium.
I
David?
believe it was another 2 months, but don't hold me to that.
Okay, so I don't know if you had, I just put it at your spot today, and I just ran across this by accident. Something popped up today in the news that the state is looking at, Michigan in particular, is looking at a moratorium. There's a bill that's trying to work its way through that would put a moratorium on all of this until next 2027 statewide.
Yeah, I think the purpose of that is to give everybody time to get themselves together, because we're all kind of suddenly looking at it midway through last year when it hadn't really been on anybody's radar
Right.
prior to that. So
That may
I don't
take
know
some
if that
of
will
the heat.
pass, but, or be signed into law if it
Right,
does.
right.
But I know that on legislators' radar, when escape their radar. But, yeah, and that would obviously be hugely helpful for an effort like this.
I understand Michigan, state of Michigan has more.
Yeah, 'cause
I've been talking to a lot of different, I was on all of, they're being ported uncertain, Washington, a lot of open land, high transport lines along 26 Mile Road here east, largest, and plus it's all under the majority of us, and smaller communities, state of their zoning ordinances are less than optimal. They're currently, I talked with a couple individuals today, coincidentally a call I was just reported by an individual. Our real estate investment, they're private equity real estate. Prologis is $1 billion, this 30 billion.
The industry strategy is to find as many sites as possible, fly on as many of them as possible, most likely not build on a lot of, figure out what.
Lease gatherers.
All right, so I'm just trying to understand from a time frame perspective, we would it fair to expect that at the April meeting, we'd have draft language for a public hearing? Or,
Well, for your review anyway.
For review.
As a full, and you would have to set up.
right. So draft language to review, if we could get to common understanding or common agreement at the April meeting, could be a public hearing set up in the May timeframe.
Yeah.
Then the moratorium would have to be extended at least.
And then it would have to, I mean, assuming it would either get recommended to the board mid-May, or if there was any additional changes after.
Procedurally.
So yes, it needs to be.
Procedurally, there's, an example, Village of Romeo, out of the gate, is,
Yeah.
but on the other side of it, supervisor says, we don't want to hold up development. Do the best job. Done quickly. Give you more.
Correct me if I'm wrong, the moratorium applies only 5. I believe it was intended.
All right, so Joe, Rick, and Mandy will meet outside of the meetings, work to come up with draft language, and we will expect to review that in April. All right, any other questions on that? Okay, that takes us to item 11A, which is the bylaws.
I had a comment. I have one suggestion. Under Article 4, under Officers, Section 4, I think that it should reflect how our meetings actually operate. The secretary does not actually take the meeting minutes. We have Tina. So I recommend adding a sentence saying the secretary on behalf of the commission or his or her designee shall keep a record of the minutes. That way it reflects how our meetings are actually.
Go ahead and send that. Bylaw.
One little sentence.
Okay. Good change there. Joe, on page 3, section 5 is just, I think we added that last time, it's just not underlined like the rest of the section. That was the ex parte, Article 3, or sorry, Article 5, section 5.
Towards ex parte, Anne Marie brought to my attention yesterday, she had a concern, the way that the ex parte is worded is for, the exact wording here is concerning matters pending for the commission. He said, well, what happened? And there are potential applicant comes planning ask for there's not an open, there's no regulation specific condition. So the best I could come up with that, since we put this in place, I personally question the goings of the township. I'm referring everybody to supervise. If he feels it necessary, pull me or other commission. That is, I'm just not personally put myself to follow up as a result of saying something inappropriate. So it's, I'm just throwing that out there for consideration by my fellow.
Yeah, I guess I think what we added is the whole intent was that commissioners are not reaching out to or discussing things on the planning commission agenda with the applicants outside of the meeting.
That's per state law.
Yeah, that's part of the.
Okay.
So this is, this is just something that goes beyond this for personal preference or personal standards.
Okay.
So anyway, that's it.
Okay, any other changes, edits, corrections, clarifications anybody has on the bylaws?
Anything in section 5?
I don't believe so.
It was just an underline
I just
there.
underlined, got it.
Do we need a motion to approve the bylaws as amended?
I would do that at your next.
Once it's
update them,
finalized.
and then you-
Okay. That takes us to 11B, which is the goals.
I have a few notes on this one as well.
Okay.
I question number 5. Been years, it doesn't seem to be on the forefront. I don't really know why it would be necessary to keep on here. So I would think it'd be okay to take it off. I also think we should add reviewing and updating the zoning ordinance to address these high intense industrial uses. Because that's something we're working on.
So maybe do we replace number 7 with that, since we're kind of done number 7? That was one from last year, cleaning up stuff. That one probably doesn't down here anymore. Unless we want to just say that's part of, this is a continuation of that.
Yeah, it's sort of a modification of it. That is 7.4.
Emery did bring to my other dive in it. So many words, we've got an do some cleanup regarding our definitions. In fact, she mentioned that at all. Just sharing what was shared.
Okay, so before we get to that, so Mandy brought up the high-intensity industrial use considerations. Do we want to just weave that into number 7 and keep it on the list of the goal, as a goal?
Doesn't need.
Okay.
But 5 is okay.
Joe, any concerns if we take 5 off? Like, is that
I'm not looking. What is
it's,
this?
medical recreational marijuana?
No, I don't.
If requested or required, work with township planning consultant in working ordinances addressing concerns with respect to both medical and recreational marijuana. Board director.
If the township board changes its mind about how you're handling those things at any point to land, I would say that having it as a goal is not necessary, just because your roles on the goal. It would have to be a change in opinion by the town.
Fall under 7 anyway, wouldn't it?
Would
If
we
they
want to
push it
replace,
down.
would we want to replace 5 by this?
Well, what we just talked about before that was updating 7 to include that. However we want to do it, I don't have a strong preference. If we're gonna make 5 the high industrial uses, then
I think it being standalone or top.
okay. Then I would advocate we strike 7 that did that.
I'm okay with that.
So on 5, are you just recommending striking the words both medical and recreational marijuana, switching to the high industrial intentional use?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that
Just
works.
swap words for words.
I like Gerard get a strike 7, we had an agreement on that.
I also had something that I've been thinking about that I'm not sure if we could add or if there's anything we can do, but we've seen some applicants come in who have exhausted their lot split and as a workaround submitted for site condos. And I'm wondering if we could explore if there's any way to prevent that from happening.
Can I comment on that? They just changed the law. As of next year, the 4 lot splits on will be 10
Yes,
acres.
yeah.
Law just will back as of March. So it goes from 4 for 10 to 10. That was the state.
What?
10 acres. Go for maximum of 4 for 10. You got 4 splits for the first 10 acres. It's now going to say 10. And the municipality can choose to see that.
But
About
we
the
still,
depth rate.
right, we still
You can
have,
still keep your depth ratios. Yes,
Yeah.
you can still limit it, but it's, common splits are now going 4 to 10.
How do we protect our, for example, how do we protect our ones that just 2 acres?
You can still do that.
Yeah, you can still do that.
So that's another requirement.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that it has to get split 10 times if
Okay.
it doesn't.
You just can't. It's a way to try to get around all these, as you just said. Get their first 3, they have the remainder 4, and they go, well, that's like,
Right.
they're trying to get around. It's just.
Venus Cross.
Yeah, yep.
So I guess in light of that, though, do we still need to address this that Mandy brought up? Like, is it still, it still potentially could become an issue if they exhaust all 10?
Potentially, but with larger lot sizes, I think this probably does solve. Because I'm trying to think of a circumstance. I don't think the Condo Act is worded in a way that lets us say you can't have further than a certain. So it's like, I'm fairly certain a condo under. Yeah. So I do think that the change that was made at the state level, these wouldn't have happened. Two that we just, they wouldn't have happened. That change had already been. And I don't think there are a lot of situations where it would have. Pretty.
One that today, the 80 acres, get a lot of splits out of that now. Private road.
Oh, sure, yeah.
You have 80 acres. And and then you carve out having a road of its own with driveways only off of its own road.
So it sounds like no need to add the condo
I don't think,
scenario
I don't
for
think,
consideration.
I don't think there's anything we can really do under the Condo Act. I think it's been addressed. The
Okay.
thing that led to those two weird, if they had come in and applied for that in 7, they.
Okay. Any other? I guess on the other, number 4, are we still looking at consideration of changes to the 33-mile off-ramp? Or is that kind of behind us?
I think In the past, I believe it's been left in the goals just to give the township an opportunity. Got someone to bend
Okay.
to say, look, it's in our goals, curation of this. Obviously, we don't have any ability to twist MDOT's arm and say, do it.
Right.
If MDOT is looking at doing something in that area, we can say, look, configuration is,
Okay. No harm in leaving it.
no, it's terrible. Stopping to turn off on it is terrifying if you've got someone like, not great.
Okay. Anything else? All right, hearing none. So, Joe, we would have a kind of a finalized version of this next month.
Yeah, that's the goal. Maybe presented by a colleague of mine because I'm going to be on vacation during the next meeting.
Yep.
This colleague of mine is dealing with this very same issue in Township, so
Okay.
she's familiar.
Deal. Okay. I think that wraps up all of our new business. Any comments, committees or consultants? We already heard from agritourism. Anything else we haven't heard?
The only thing was this bridge thing. I know that
Yeah.
Marie asked if I could say something about it. So for those unfamiliar, if you haven't had a chance to read the article, there are some bills circulating in Lansing right now that would preempt some local zoning authority with regard to housing. Without getting too much into the specifics, the idea is supposed to be for allowing the housing supply to increase more quickly. Laudable goal. I think that we need to figuring out ways to help increase the supply of housing in the state. However, the way that the legislature has chosen to go about it by doing a lot of preemption of local zoning has sparked a big backlash from municipal organizations, including the Michigan Municipal League, Michigan Township Association. Some of the specifics in the bills are a little head scratching to me. Lot size, vision, allowing size, larger, minimum lot size larger than 2,500 square feet for a single family home in an area that is served by water and sewer. It's a very, very spot. In fact, I live in Berkeley, one of the densest communities in the entire state. It's quite a bit further. I live on 1/10 of an acre. So some of the standards that are in there are puzzling. I think that this has a steep climb as currently written. There's a possibility that they will make some major changes to it and some of the opposition to it soften. I think that zoning is only one factor, very wide variety of factors that is leading to these high costs. And if some of those other factors aren't addressed, changes to zoning at the state level or not. Got to address some of the other as well, and I don't really see that in this legislation. So I think it's kind of a stay tuned thing. I don't think that bill is going to pass soon. But it seems to me that the path of these specific legislative ideas plus bill assumed it would be, if anything does a lot of local control. It's, you know, a couple of years ago in 2024, there was, this article refers to it as similar legislation. In some regards, it was similar, but it was definitely less in what's being permitted now or proposed now. So, yeah, I don't know what its prospects are. I imagine that at some point this year, legislature will pass some. I don't think they're going to give it up. But what that out, I think is a pretty open, right? I don't think that what's in there now is particularly viable, and I'm you know, not a fortune teller or anything. You can't take my word for it, but it's hard for me to see what it is.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments from commissioners on this? More information online if you want to read more about it.
And you all have legislative.
Any comments from commissioners? Welcome.
Thank you.
Good job, first meeting.
Yeah.
With that, I move to adjourn at 8:14 p.m. Seconded by Commissioner Can. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
You never said
Did you?